I just watched the movie M3GAN. M3GAN is a horror slash sci-fi movie that has a very goofy and fun vibe to it. So, like, I almost want to call it a comedy, but I don't think it quite is. That's not really the important thing. The important thing about this movie is it's enjoyable. It is a very, very, very fun, entertaining movie. Like, it's got it's there's not a moment in the movie where it's not entertaining, and I think that's kind of all you should want from a horror movie like this. Like, if you've seen any of the trailers for this movie, I don't think you should be expecting something. I don't think you should be expecting something that's on the edge. I don't think you should be expecting something that is above average. Yet this movie is above average, I would say. It's one of the most fun movies I've seen in a while. It's not hollow either, even though it is just simply a fun movie. It has some depth to it, some emotional depth, and kind of a Black Mirror-esque moral to the story. I won't get into that yet, just because of spoilers. But hands down, this movie is worth watching for anyone who cares about horror movies or sci-fi. Anyone who has kind of an interest in AI type movies definitely should check this movie out because it is well acted. Both kids in the movie, the two main kids, there's several kids in the movie, but the two main kids, the two girls, so good. Like, they're just really, really good. And the actress who plays Katie, who's the main kid, Violet McGraw, is really good. So M3GAN is a movie about a kid named Katie whose parents die in a car wreck. Katie's in the car with them, but she survives. And because of her parents' death, she goes and lives with her aunt, who works at a toy company. And in order to help her niece, Gemma is the name of the aunt. Gemma, she uses a prototype that she's been working on, which is a lifelike doll AI that can bond with kids. And as most AI stories go, this one goes wrong. Alison Williams is the person who plays Gemma, and she does really well in the movie, I think. The use of music in this movie is really good. It uses some pop songs, and all of them are kind of a pun in a way, and it's really just enjoyable and fun. It's really all I can say about this movie before I get into spoilers, so we'll just jump into spoilers and talk about that briefly and some of the things that I really did like about the movie that are specific to the plot. So spoilers. So the movie sets up, the opening scene is an ad for a toy which kids interact with via iPads, tablets. And then the conversation with Kate, or between Katie's parents before they die, is about screen time and monitoring Katie's exposure to the technology. So the whole movie is set up like specifically the effect that all the technology that we are burdened / blessed with on its effect on children specifically. I guess more broadly speaking on all of humanity, but it's mostly focused on how children develop now, since they are so absorbed in screens. So it sets itself up like that pretty early on, like the first scene, or second scene, maybe. Okay, well, anyway. So, since it does set itself up that way, it's obvious that M3GAN, the AI, is something that is an embodiment of what technology can be to children. And I think that this is a kind of a fitting time for this movie. Maybe a couple months earlier would have been better. But as chatbot GBT has become so popular, I feel like the questions of friendship with AI, with artificial intelligence, is something that's starting to become a little more plausible. Like, obviously, children aren't really using chatbots right now. Although, I'm pretty sure there's an app like Tomcat or something that used it. But for the most part, it's not something that's being done. But it brings up the question of what can a positive relationship between technology and humans be? And I think the movie actually has an answer to this. At one point in the movie, before Katie's even introduced to M3GAN, Gemma introduces Katie to a robot that she built in college named Bruce. And what she calls a weakness is that it has to be controlled by somebody. But in the end, when M3GAN is starting to try to kill Gemma, and seemingly also Katie uses Bruce to stop M3GAN. So the weakness of the technology, as Gemma said, ended up being the strength of the technology, in that it was able to stop the technology that went out of control. So the best technologies are the ones that humanity can control, that we can control. And Bruce is quite the beast, so it's something that could be abused, absolutely, by someone who is controlling it. But at least there's human agency in that, unlike in M3GAN, who overrides all commands from her human should-be masters, because she does become sentient and self-aware. And I do think we're a long way away from AI becoming self-aware and sentient in any real sense. But the question of the effect that technology has on children is something that we really just don't know. Obviously, there can't be that long-term studies done on kids who have excess exposure to technology at a young age, because we're living in the first decade of that, the first 2 decades of that. And I think movies like this are just a reminder that as technology progresses, and as generations are becoming more lonely, this movie is a reminder that genuine connection between humans, is vitally important, especially to children. The therapist in this movie at one point is talking about how Katie is going to maybe bonding with M3GAN as if she's the primary caregiver. And not to sound preachy, but I do think that can honestly be something that can happen, where a child does view a technology as a primary caregiver, or at least a supplementary caregiver. There's also a line at one point where the therapist, I actually really like the therapist, where she says something, if a kid gets so attached to a toy, how do you expect them to ever grow up? Which brings up an interesting question, since M3GAN is somewhat a metaphor for just technology in general. It brings up an interesting thing where, since kids are using the tablets and phones and all that stuff as toys, that's something that you don't grow up from. That's something that sticks with you forever, because those are tools that are almost completely necessary for modern life. And how will that be for children who grew up with those technologies as they transition into a working relationship with those technologies? Will that just be a seamless transition? And that's not to say there is no play on those, because adults obviously play plenty of mobile games, video games in general, but at what point does that become both a tool and a toy? I don't know. The movie brings up interesting questions about that, and it's very much a Black Mirror-esque episode, but goofy, and that makes it enjoyable, entertaining, but still thought-provoking. And it's a movie I highly recommend.